One of the very first homes I ever sold as a broker was in Buda, Texas. Since then, I've helped multiple families move out of Austin rentals they could barely afford and into homes in Buda they actually own. So when I talk about what living in Buda looks like in 2026, I'm not reading it off Zillow. I've helped real families build real lives here. Hi, I'm Brandon Holley with Holley Homes Realty here in South Austin. If you watched my video about moving from California to South Austin and started wondering if Buda might actually be a better fit, this video is for you. I'm going to walk you through what your money really buys here, what day-to-day life actually feels like, the schools, the growth happening around the city, and the honest answer to whether Buda is the right move for you. In this video, I'm going to walk you through 4 things. First, what around $400,000 actually gets you in Buda right now. Second, what the lifestyle here really feels like, the schools, the food, the community, all of it. Third, what's coming to Buda over the next few years and why so many buyers are paying attention to it right now. And then fourth, my honest take on who Buda is a great fit for and who it probably isn't. By the end of this video, you'll have a much clearer idea if Buda is actually the right move for you. So let's talk about where Buda actually sits in 2026. Right now, the median sold price in Buda is around $352,000 and the median list price is closer to $375,000. So if you're coming in with $400,000, you're already shopping above the middle of the market. And for a lot of buyers coming from California, that changes the conversation pretty quickly. Now, here's what's interesting about the market itself. Technically, Buda still leans seller friendly based on inventory levels, but homes are sitting for around 80 days on average, and sellers are accepting roughly 3.4% below asking price. So buyers actually have room to negotiate right now, a lot more than many relocators are expecting. And property values are down about 5% from where they were a year ago. That's obviously frustrating if you bought at the peak, but if you're buying now, it means you're entering a softer price point than a lot of the people who purchased in 2024. The other thing to understand is just how fast Buda has grown. The population has more than doubled since 2010, and a huge part of that growth has been people leaving Austin looking for more space, newer homes, and a little bit more breathing room. And if you're researching suburbs around Austin, go ahead and hit subscribe. I break down communities like this every week and try to explain the stuff most relocation videos completely skip over. Let me show you what roughly $400,000 actually gets you in Buda right now. First, a little context. The median sold price in 78610 zip code is around $352,000. So with a $400K budget, you're already shopping above the middle of the market. That means you're not stretching to make something work. You actually have options. At that price point, you're typically looking at somewhere between 1,800 and 2,400 square feet. Usually 3 to 4 bedrooms, a 2-car garage, a real backyard, and often access to community amenities as well. And the recent sales back that up. A 4-bedroom home in Sunfield with nearly 2,800 square feet recently closed around that high 400s mark. Meanwhile, a 3-bedroom home around 1,800 square feet in Buda proper closed in the mid 300s. So around $400K puts you in a really strong spot in this market. Now, the community that gets talked about the most right now is Sunfield. That's probably the headline neighborhood in Buda at the moment. New construction there still starts in the high 300s, and honestly, what you get for the price is pretty impressive. You got 2 lazy rivers, a junior Olympic sized pool, more than 12 miles of hike and bike trails, splash pad, dog parks, fishing ponds, and one of the biggest draws for families is that Sunfield Elementary is right inside the community. So for a lot of kids, they can walk to the school, and that just opened in 2022. Now let's talk about the lifestyle, because Buda is not just a cheaper version of Austin. It really does have its own identity, and honestly, that's a big reason people move here and stay here. Downtown Buda has a small, walkable district with a lot of locally owned restaurants and little shops. A few of my personal favorites are Mudbugs for the shrimp po' boy. You can grab a cup of coffee at Meridian or enjoy a Mexican martini at Chavelo's. And if you got young kids, Cabela's becomes a free family activity on the weekends. The old mill and grain company has also completely transformed over the last few years into a really cool food and shopping area. You've got Plum Creek Golf Course just south of Buda, which is a public 18-hole course. And if you want to get out into the hill country, places like Wimberley, Driftwood, and Dripping Springs are all within just a 20 to 30 minute drive. That's the kind of personality of Buda. It still feels like a smaller Texas town, but you're close enough to Austin that you don't feel disconnected from everything. And honestly, one of the best examples of that is the annual Buda Wiener Dog races. It sounds completely ridiculous because it is, but it's also exactly the kind of community event that gives this place its character. And I'm curious, when you think about where you want to live, what matters most to you? Is it the schools, the amenities, walkability, food scene, commute? Drop in the comments below. I read every single one. Schools are probably the number one thing relocating families ask me about, so let me give you the big picture. Buda is served primarily by Hays CISD, and right now the city has access to two strong high schools. You have Jack C. Hays and Mo and Jean Johnson High School. Both carry solid reputations locally, both have graduating rates in the low 90s, and both perform above district and state averages in several academic categories. On the elementary side, Elm Grove Elementary, which serves part of the Garlic Creek area, is one of the more highly rated elementary schools in the district. And then you've got Sunfield Elementary, which is one of the newer schools in the area. It opened in 2022 and was designed with a really modern layout and updated learning spaces that Hays CISD is expected to use as a model for future campuses. Now, obviously, every family values different things when it comes to schools, and ratings can change over time, but overall, one of the reasons so many families feel comfortable making the move to Buda is because the school infrastructure here has grown alongside the city. Now let's talk about what's coming next, because Buda in 2030 is probably going to feel very different than it does today. The biggest headline right now is the new HEB project off I-35 near Main Street. HEB recently finalized plans for a brand new flagship location that's expected to include a true Texas barbecue drive-thru, a garden center, and a full pharmacy. Construction is expected to begin soon. But here's the part a lot of people miss. The current HEB location across the street is also expected to be redeveloped into additional retail space. So instead of just getting a new grocery store, Buda is basically getting an entirely new commercial hub built around it. And the location itself is interesting too. The site used to be a landfill, and part of the redevelopment includes major environmental cleanup. They're literally taking land that had been sitting unused for years and turning it into one of the city's future anchor points. And if you're new to Texas, the reason why that's important is because HEB projects tend to think long term. They don't usually make major investments in areas where they don't see long-range population growth and demand. So when they go this big on a project, people tend to notice. Beyond that, there's a lot more happening across Buda. Persimmon is a new master plan community that recently started selling homes. The city is working on Garlic Creek Parkway to help relieve some of the traffic pressure around FM 1626 and Main Street. And then Hays CISD has discussed future school expansions around the Sunfield corridor, and Sunfield itself continues expanding with another amenities, including a second lazy river at the newer Lakeside Amenity Center. And then when you zoom out, the bigger pattern becomes pretty obvious. Buda isn't being built as a finished town anymore. It's being built for where the city expects growth to go over the next decade. And that's why a lot of buyers are paying attention to it right now. So how do you decide if Buda is actually the right fit for you? If you're relocating from California or another high-cost market, want a newer home, care about amenities, and have school-age kids, Buda checks a lot of boxes. The value is strong, the neighborhoods are newer, the schools continue improving, and for a lot of families, the overall lifestyle just makes sense. Now, if you work remotely or go into the downtown Austin occasionally, the commute is usually manageable, but if you need to drive into Austin 3 to 4, maybe even 5 times a week during peak traffic, Just be realistic about it. Depending on where you're going, you're probably looking at somewhere around 40 to 55 minutes during rush hour. Toll roads can definitely help, but it's still a big factor. And if walkability and a true urban lifestyle are at the top of your list, Buda probably isn't the answer. The downtown area is great for what it is, but this is still a car-dependent suburb. It's not trying to be downtown Austin, and it's definitely not trying to be San Francisco. The other thing I always tell buyers is this: not every neighborhood in Buda feels the same. Communities like Sunfield, Persimmon, Turner's Crossing, and some of the older established neighborhoods all come with different price points, tax rates, HOA structures, and overall vibes. So don't think of Buda as one thing. Different parts of the city can feel very different depending on what kind of lifestyle you would like. Now you might be wondering, isn't Buda too far from Austin? Doesn't the commute kind of run it? Here's the honest answer. Buda is about 15 miles from downtown Austin. If you're driving outside of peak traffic, you're usually looking at around 25 to 35 minutes. During rush hour though, I-35 can absolutely push that closer to 50 minutes or even more. Toll roads can help quite a bit depending on where you're headed. But here's the part a lot of people relocating here don't realize. Not everyone living in Buda works downtown. A lot of residents work in South Austin, at the Tesla Gigafactory, in the Southwest Austin Tech Corridor, or at places like Baylor, Scott & White. And depending on your route, many of those are still within about 15 to 25 minutes from Buda, even with traffic. So the commute question really comes down to where you actually work and how often you have to be there. If you're remote or hybrid, Buda can be an incredible value. If you're commuting downtown every single day, you just want to go into the move with realistic expectations and maybe focus on communities closer to the north side of Buda like Turner's Crossing. And if this video has been helpful so far, hitting the like button really does help YouTube push it out to more people trying to figure out if this move makes sense for them. I understand now may not be the right time, and I never want to be pushy. Just know that I am here if you have questions, would like to start planning, or need anything. There's a link below to the Buda relocation guide. Gives you a lot of valuable information, so click that link. And if you have any questions at all, do not hesitate to reach out to me at 512-487-9242. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Brandon Holley with Holley Homes Realty, and stay tuned next week where I'll be dropping another valuable video for anybody thinking about the Austin area.